Hello. So I got your email on a few of the questions that you had over the keto diet, and I just kind of wanted to bring you in today to talk about that question you had on what it was and basically if it was effective and safe for weight loss. So to start just over some of the basics, the keto diet is considered a very low carbohydrate diet. And when I say very low, I mean less than 50 grams per day coming from carbs. And just so you know, according to the dietary guidelines put out by the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion, the average American consumes anywhere around 250 to 300 grams of carbs per day. And the dietary guidelines are around 130 grams per day for most people. So very, very low carb. It's moderate in protein, so right around that 0.8 grams per kilograms a day is what the RDA is for protein. And high fat, very high fat. And when I say high fat, I mean greater than 30% of your total calories coming from fat. So it was originally developed in the 1920s. It was designed to mimic the biological effects that occur with starvation. So originally, when they created this diet, it was to help patients with epilepsy. It was thought that it could somehow affect the metabolic pathways and help cure epilepsy, and there was some research to support that finding. More recently, they have studied it with Alzheimer's, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, a few other comorbid diseases to study its effectiveness in those situations. So, like I said, it changes how our physiology, how we process energy, basically how we create energy. So when you think about starvation, we're not intaking any calories. We are not eating. So therefore, our body, in order to continue running, our central nervous system, our brain, our heart, our spinal cord, the things that make us who we are, they need to derive their energy from another source. So basically, it changes our body and mainly our CNS's fuel source. And when you limit carbohydrate intake to less than 50 grams per day or even less, you severely deplete your glucose reserves, which are in your liver and your circulating free blood glucose. That's mainly where we get our energy from and how we create ATP. So this happens after about 3 days. Your glucose reserves become completely depleted. And our body then has no glucose stores to complete normal oxidation or the creation of energy. And then it turns to the fat stores for energy. So then it starts burning your fat and then protein and so on and so on. So this occurs because the body creates excess acetyl-CoA that through different pathways leads to an increase in ketone bodies. Now these ketone bodies are created in the mitochondria in the liver. They replace glucose as the fuel source for the central nervous system, and they do this through a separate metabolic pathway of getting to our brain. Now when you reach this point, this is what's considered a state of ketosis, and this is very, very similar to what happens when a person is starving. So now there's a few studies that show its effectiveness for weight loss since it is very, very low carb. But most diets that limit something like carbohydrates or fat are going to show some effectiveness because they're decreasing caloric intake overall. However, after a certain point in time, in many of these studies, weight loss either stalls, participation decreases, or there is no difference between this keto diet and other common diets such as low fat, another one that's commonly recommended to people. Overall, there has not really been enough scientific evidence to prove whether it's effective and safe for weight loss. And I'll kind of go into a couple studies that discuss this. So in a randomized controlled trial by Yancey Jr. and colleagues in 2004, 120 overweight hyperlipidemic, meaning high blood lipids, were randomly assigned to either a low carbohydrate ketogenic diet, which was less than 20 grams carbs per day, so even less than the 50 I spoke of earlier, or a low-fat diet of less than 30% total kilocalories. So that's getting less than 30% of your total calories from fat. Now, each of these groups received exercise recommendations and went to weekly group meetings and spoke to like a registered dietitian about foods they could be eating and how to continually follow this diet. So each participant's body weight, body composition, fasting serum lipid levels, and tolerability of the diet were assessed, and this was before and after the study. So the results found that a greater proportion of the people on the low carbohydrate diet actually finished the study compared to the low-fat diet. They had more people drop out of the low-fat diet. Now, after 24 weeks, or about 6 months, weight loss was greater in the low-carbohydrate group than in the low-fat group. And both saw significant fat mass lost compared to their lean mass, which is good because we want to maintain our muscle whenever we're losing weight. So the low-carb diet saw greater decreases in serum triglyceride levels and an increase in HDL cholesterol, which is our healthy cholesterol. That's the good cholesterol that we want more of. However, the LDL, or our bad cholesterol, was not different between the two groups, between the low-fat or the low-carb, and more adverse effects were reported following the low-carbohydrate group. And these are commonly reported with the keto diet. Specifically in this study, patients said that they had experienced constipation, headaches, halitosis or bad breath, muscle cramps, diarrhea, general weakness, and in some cases a rash. So when we look at constipation, personally I believe that's probably due to a lack of fiber, because when we eat whole grains and breads and vegetables, that's what helps keep us regular. And so if we're limiting our carbohydrate intake so low that we're not getting those things and we're not supplementing fiber in other ways, it's probably going to cause a little bit of that constipation. And then halitosis or bad breath is another commonly reported side effect following the keto diet. It's this really sweet smelling breath, and others have complained of it as well. So the keto diet still has a lot to be researched. Like I said, they've done it in some studies with diseases, but there's still a lot to be seen for weight loss and its effectiveness. And so without this good research to totally support it, I really don't feel comfortable suggesting this diet to you as an option. Now again, I'm not a registered dietitian, so I would by no means prescribe a dietary intervention to you, but I just wanted to come in and show you the research today so you could kind of see why I'm on the fence about people using the keto diet. Another example is in a systematic review by Astrup, Meanert, and Harper in 2004. They saw that low carbohydrate diets found weight loss is mainly achieved through the restriction of energy intake and also the duration of the dietary intervention. Now, they did not see this necessarily as specific to the restriction of carbohydrates. So like I said earlier, when you restrict anything and you're decreasing your total caloric intake for the day, you're burning more calories than you're eating, you're probably going to see some weight loss because you're not replenishing all the calories you're burning, whether it's carbohydrates or fat. Now, many trials, such as the one previously mentioned, and in this review that they mentioned, show that weight loss in the first 6 months is generally pretty good. But after about 12 months, there's really not a difference between the keto diet or a very low carbohydrate diet and a low-fat diet or other commonly recommended diets. There's a few studies that I saw with Weight Watchers, Atkins, other Slim Fast, very other in the media type diets. So there is some thought that circulating ketones, those ketone bodies that I talked about, may be appetite suppressing, and this mimics that starvation effect. When we're starving, our body doesn't want us to feel hungry. Many magazines also claim that there's a thermogenic effect, but again, this has yet to be proven in studies. In conclusion, there could be some benefit to this diet. However, any diet that restricts something is most likely going to see weight loss. You can try low carb, but I would highly suggest not going as low carb as the keto diet. As you can see, there are some adverse effects. I would also tell you to go talk to a registered dietitian. There's ones at hospitals, they have clinics, and go get a second opinion. I mean, this is just my research, but they are professionals and they will be able to tell you more information than I can share with you today. So, thank you.